Hello, welcome to That IT Show. And today I'm going to try to explain to Vedran what has happened with the news. Or to be more precise, we are going to try to explain to ourselves what the duck happened to the news and what happened with all the ways that we used to get the information, the news, new technologies and everything else from the media, what happened to the media, and then how to actually get to the news today. Is everything biased? Do we have a problem because we are too old? Or is just that the internet has done its thing? So stay tuned for that IT show. Let's roll the intro.
Okay, can I make a small admission?
Yes?
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Me neither. That's okay.
Let's roll.
Yes,
with
yes.
that.
This is the style that I'm going to be completely
Familiar
completely running today with, because, as I said before, I feel at least 10 percentage points more stupid than I am usually. For some reason or the other, it may be the heat, it may be the whatever is happening in the society or whatever. So I feel like this is the perfect choice to talk about the news. Because in order to talk about the news, you have to be a little bit stupid, to be honest. Okay.
We can agree upon that. But
So let's start with something that probably a lot of you completely forgot about. Let's start with slashdot. Do you remember those?
Lord help, yes.
Yes.
And I probably did not consume a single piece of information from that site in more than a decade.
Me neither. Me neither. But
it used to be a good source for information about some stuff related to IT in the past.
Yes, I think that this is probably the first, let's call them portals or aggregators or whatever, of news that came into being as a resource that everybody was following. So it was late 1990s, early 2000s. I remember that it was way back before 2001.
1997.
1997. So they were probably the first dedicated portal that was first covering the news. And the other thing was that they were trying to make the news as neutral as possible. So they were actually trying to come up with an idea on how to make commenting work.
Okay.
So that worst comments were pushed way back down. People could comment. The news themselves, you could vote for them. So it was, I think, the first hooray into the brave new world of
Meritocracy in news.
Not meritocracy. I would just call it hooray into the world of news that are moderated by the readers.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
I remember that.
I think this is one of those things, because they, to be honest, they weren't moderated by the readers. The comments themselves were moderated, but the news were moderated by the team. But at the same time, you had some source of some sort of feedback that was pretty much positive, and it made sense to read the news on Slashdot.
The only thing I remember reading about on Slashdot was Linux-related news.
Yes, but
They were quite well versed in that, I would say.
yes, they were following all the relevant topics relevant for the internet then, way back then. You could find information that made sense when we were talking or trying to talk about new technologies on the internet. So they were they had the internet in the focus. So it made sense. And then, as internet became popular, I think that we have started to develop a problem. Uh, do you?
Everything that's too mass produced leads to quality diminishment.
Yes. So I'm not going to try to talk to you about the portals today because the portals themselves are something that has changed or hasn't changed for the last 20 years. But the portals themselves are mainly focused on local news, and those local news may or may not suit you. So, for example, right now here in Croatia, the biggest topic that everybody is talking about is how tall is the grass in the main city of Zagreb, which makes absolutely zero sense to somebody who is following the news from the outside. And in that particular sense, local portals are something that may or may not be applicable to what you want to see. It's interesting sometimes. Almost all the portals right now are pushing for the clickbaity titles that say nothing. Information is scarce. The quality of the text is low. And I think that the beginnings of AI coming into the portals is probably going to do one good thing for everybody, and this is that at least the quality of the texts or the quality of the writing is going to go up.
Not necessarily the truthfulness of the articles.
Yes, but I don't. Mostly, I don't trust almost any of the portals today. So I'm just reading the text and hoping that I'm going to see something that's going to be.
I remember reading last week or maybe a week before that somebody, was it Springer or somebody in Germany, decided to exchange a part of their stuff by using AI.
Yes,
exactly what we were discussing in some of the previous episodes.
They decided to. It was Springer, I think. They decided they are going to change the. I think it was the fact-checking department and editing department. So basically, they're going to get rid of people who are most important for the news being correct.
For the quality of production,
yes,
of the news. Yeah, okay.
And this is something that is.
It's coming.
It's coming. It already came and went in Croatia. So we lost the editors, we lost the redactors, we lost a lot of people who are there to make sure that the text makes sense. So the quality of the local and news media is something that is okay. I wouldn't say that it has reached the bottom. But as soon as it reaches the bottom, it's probably going to take a shovel and start digging. So I think that this is what...
it's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yes. It's just that we are more used to it here because we already saw it.
Okay.
But okay, let's talk about Yahoo. Yahoo was a source of information also. Yahoo used to be a portal. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I'm afraid I do.
Yes, they had a curated list of links, and they made sort of kind of sense.
Okay.
And now they are just another portal without any. Okay, without any. Finally shaped vegetables, a little bit of politics, a little bit of violence, a little bit of half-naked people,
Tushy pictures,
a little bit of cars, a little bit of shakes. So basically, the run-of-the-mill portal that tries to make some sense but doesn't make any.
Okay.
Of course, there is a trending list on the right.
Everybody has.
Yes, everybody has a trending list. Trending where, but okay, trending list. And this is what has happened to the news today.
Okay.
But let's try to roll into the world where I'm, or at least wanted to remember where I got my news from. So the next site that I want you to remember is Dig.
Never used that one, heard about it, but never
yes,
used
it was completely different way back then.
But you didn't start to consuming the news from any of those sites. You actually started to consume the news from the network news before that.
To be completely truthful, I started consuming the news through printed media.
No. I'm talking about online.
Yes, online. I started using
NNTP.
NNTP, and so Usenet News. So Usenet.
TIN. Yeah,
exactly using Usenet running through either reader on Windows or in TIN.
Yeah.
And it was the perfect solution to get the news. And I think that the closest to what Usenet was right now is Hacker News.
Okay.
Hacker News makes sense. It, from the standpoint of somebody who is trying to follow technology, Hacker News is something that you should be following because they are not giving the spotlight only to the most interesting things, but also to things that may or may not be interesting to a lot of people, because they are trying to cover the topics that are interesting to people who are into IT. So, for example,
Basically important topics.
yes. So, for example, you wouldn't see a DevTools for mobile browsers topic anywhere. This
Okay.
is the place to see it. And I want to just point one thing out. This is a super simple page that works.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes. So this is something that was or is a relic of the long lost age.
Agreed.
But at the same time, I like it for the same reason.
Exactly correct.
Because the news is here, information is here, nothing else is here. That's it. And it uses the screen state pretty well. Because
No
it
unnecessary pictures.
yes, it is able to cram 21 different articles in the same page, and at the same time, if you take a look at Yahoo, you have what
5 or 6.
5 or 6. So it is using the screen state correctly. It is a nice way to get the news. It is interesting, or okay, it may be interesting for the IT related topics.
Okay.
The only thing that probably is going to be a big problem for everybody else who is not into IT is that this is not a site to get any other type of news.
Okay.
So this is interesting to anybody else who is not into IT. Now let's go and talk about Reddit a little bit.
Oh Lord, no.
But Reddit was the place to get the current news. Reddit was the place to see what is going on and to see and find different people that have the same idea, same hobbies, and the same mindset as you. So you were able to find, in your example, probably F1 related stuff. I could find somebody who was interested in Arduino or whatever. So there were topics that people were following that are not necessarily or are not at all interesting to other people, but you could find people that who find those topics interesting. So what happened is that you were able to find somewhere to find like-minded people.
Okay.
Now Reddit has turned into politics, basically.
As everybody do.
And I think that the biggest problem that they have right now is that the hand of, especially on the Reddit side, the hand of the editors is being forced by the AI. One of the reasons why they closed down the API and they decided it's going to be extremely expensive is to stop people from using it to post AI stories.
Okay.
Because it defeats the purpose.
Okay.
At the same time, it made a lot of people angry, but from the point of view of somebody who is trying to protect the, let's say, the environment or the community, it sort of makes sense.
Okay.
I'm completely against what has transpired out of it. So the blockage of the Apollo reader, blockage of the known programs that were intended to, let's say, give people a chance to use a different UI to the Reddit. But at the same time, letting AI run rampant on a site that is based on user comments is something that makes this site completely useless. So you had to do it, or they had to do it, but I think that the way they did it is wrong.
Can I add something to this story?
Yes.
For me, Reddit was, and always will be completely useless.
Okay.
But there is a corollary to that,
Yes.
to that theory from my side, and I'm freely admitting this because it is the way in which I chose to consume my news, in a sense, which is by not consuming them at all. So I gave up on reading on anything some 15 years ago because, as we talked about in one of the previous episodes, we talked about mental health issues and whatnots. it wasn't that I had issues with anything related to mental health. I just had a lot of rage looking through stupid news, especially on the local sites, and heaven forbid TV, because that was still the age of TV. And my first decision that was made by like the Alexander the Great, how to solve the problem of the knot, was to take a sword and cut my TV service as such. And since then, I haven't consumed any TV news at all, single one. I never watched the news, and I extended that to internet as well, because most of the things, and you correctly pointed this out a couple of minutes ago, the natural process of what happens on the internet is that everything ends up in politics.
Yes.
And I am completely uninterested in politics because it has no value for our lives apart from wasting our time, energy, and let's say what we have left of goodwill on useless fights while nothing gets done.
Yes, this is one of those things, and the other thing is that okay, to be completely serious, the medium of TV is dead. Or
Rightfully so.
The TV medium as it is used today in the local news channels and in the local TV channels. Because Croatia is small, local news channels basically do not exist. There is not enough news happening for them to be able to provide 24/7 coverage. So it becomes a 24/7 reiteration of 3 facts and 4 stories. And it doesn't make sense as but anywhere, TV is dead.
There's actually a corollary to that. I completely agree with you. And I'm just stating facts, not my preferences, by saying what I'm about to say. When you count down the viewership, and let's skip Croatia now, let's go to US for a second. If you count the viewership of all of their corporate TV media, the amount of people that watch the news is less than the amount of people that watch the Joe Rogan and a couple of others on a episode per episode basis. So your theory that TV is dead is right on. The numbers bear it out.
Yes.
And I don't watch all that much that as well, because again, everything that gets there are 2 main corruptors in life. It's politics and money. It's very simple to understand what corrupts people, and the way in which all of the sites went into politics is the way in which they got completely corrupted. I'm not necessarily saying that they are corrupted from the perspective of the quality of the stuff that they post, because it might be quality content for the topic that they are posting. But from the perspective, for example, can you imagine Slashdot with political news, which is where a lot of sites went?
But they got political news, but they were always trying to make it make it a fact. So they were just trying to present the facts and say, okay, this happened. But without any other
commentary.
Commentary. The commentary was in the comments.
Yeah.
Okay, but it wasn't on the front page. They weren't trying to create any kind of clickbait. So they weren't trying to say, okay, they had some commentaries that was snarky or sarcastic about different companies on the internet. We must be honest about this, but at the same time, they weren't trying to be clickbaity. Now, you wouldn't believe what happened next with the president is a normal title of a news article, and it doesn't make any sense.
Agreed.
So the news themselves did what they did, but let's try to keep the politics out. Let's say,
can I just add one more thing
Yes.
to politics, and then we can leave
Yes.
it out, because I think it's very it has a lot of merit to our discussion. I know that you know where I got this from, and I'm going to quote it directly for a reason. In one of the episodes of a show that both of you and I
Okay.
watched years ago, me more recently because you kind of got me into it. There is a scene in which what pretends to be a news anchor says that people are not choosing the news; they are choosing the facts that fit the thing that they are thinking.
the narrative,
about.
yes.
The narrative. Hence my problem. Actually, the wider vision of that problem, and it's true. It's completely on point to the commentary of that. The wider point of that is actually that there are no people doing the real news anymore, in a vein of what us old farts, 2/3 of the way there, were kind of partially used to in the past, although we were still way too young to live through the age of the Cronkites and all of the other, let's say, greats of the yesteryear. And this is something that's sorely lacking both in the politics news, which I'm completely uninterested in, but it's lacking in other types of news as well.
Okay, but the other thing is that nobody is prepared to spend the amount of money that they were spending on the printed media.
Okay, and
And-
I disagree with that, just like you do.
Yes.
Because that corrupts the news, because the news isn't correct then. The whole point of news as such is to be a public broadcast of correct facts. Everything else is basically agenda based.
So, for example, just to make a point out of it, in Croatia, the newspaper used to be somewhere around the euro. Let's go a few cents up or down. We were using kunas back then, but they were somewhere around a euro. A person who would buy the newspaper every day of the week would spend 30 euros on the news.
Per month, yes.
Per month. Today, nobody is willing to spend 30 euros per month just to get information from anybody.
It's a point that you previously made, and you are completely correct.
Yes, and the other thing that is happening because of this is that this amount of money flow isn't going to the news corporations, so they cannot afford the journalists, so they cannot afford the content.
And again, I'm going reverting back to the thing that I said earlier, which is that money corrupts.
Or
Which
lack,
is in the back
or
end of this.
lack of money in this,
No,
in this
actually,
case.
I would argue that there are still a lot of, let's say, TV stations, radio stations, whatnot, internet radio stations, whatever you want to call them, that are hugely profitable because there are still large media houses operating all the way from US to Australia, which that could invest more money into what we are discussing, but they choose not to.
They choose not to because they are trying to. No, they are just trying to get the money out of the advertisers, not the end users. It's not the same thing if your editorial content depends on the end user being your buyer,
Agreed.
so your primary source of income, or the advertiser being his primary source of income.
Agreed.
Because if you have an advertiser, you more or less don't care about the content. You care that the content is mild enough to not make your advertisers angry, and I would say interesting enough to make people read it. And this is where the clickbaits come from.
And to your point, going back to the show that I just discussed, there is another scene which is very, very important for our discussion right
Yes.
now. And I'm not saying that I agree with everything in that specific show, but there are 3 or 4 scenes that are just a perfect description of the topic that we are discussing. The scene that I'm talking about is related to the apology.
Yes.
In the show, in which they basically say that one of the primary reasons why the news got so corrupted, in US specifically here, but you can copy paste that across the world because the same error was made everywhere, and we are still suffering the consequences of that, was that for 23 hours of the day, the the broadcast TV can earn money via ads, advertisers, whatnot. But for an hour, as the character in the show says, that the TV should work for us being the people living in a country that provided the radio waves for that, and that it would change the political discourse immeasurably for the better if somebody within the legal framework inserted that under no circumstances in US an hour per day for broadcast news can there be paid advertisement as the program goes on. I completely agree with that.
Yes, and this is one of the...
It makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense, but on the other hand, the integrity of the journalists was something that was interesting because, okay, let's go back to the episode when we were talking about the printed media in IT. They were able to push out 700, 800 page volumes each fortnight. So basically, every 14 days they were able to push out a new issue that had 700 pages. Most of those were ads, but they realized that between the ads, people wanted to see the content. They were drowning in the money, but they were creating content. They were making sure that the content is correct. Right now, people don't care about the content, or the publishers don't care about the content.
But
They
still
just
want the
care.
ads.
They want the content that is good enough to fill the space between the ads.
Agreed.
And
As I said, corruption on two levels. That's what it is.
but I wouldn't call it corruption. I would
It
call
is from the perspective of
no.
quality for
I
the reader.
think it's even worse. I think it's complacency. It's laziness.
Agreed.
Because corruption implies that you're doing it on purpose. And right now, I think that we have come to a point where people don't know different. They don't
Agreed.
know how
It's
to
an
do it
algorithm
better.
That's just being repeated all the time. Yeah, I agree.
I think it's that spiral that is going to end up in complete death of printed media.
Yeah.
And after this, a complete.
TV is next.
I think the TV is going to be a close next. So I think that the both of them are going to fail almost simultaneously.
Maybe 3D TV.
Who remembers the 3D TV? I didn't know.
No same person, but okay, yeah.
Yes, but okay, but when you said that you are not watching TV anymore, I think that I have a TV tuner IPTV box somewhere at home. I don't know where it is. Where it is. I don't know where the remote control is.
And if it works still.
And to be completely and utterly honest, the last thing I watched and on it was, I think, Eurovision contest, but not this one, but the previous one, because I was trying to make a point to my kid. And this was the only
For
reason.
education reasons.
Yes.
You suffered through.
Yes, but I suffered through because it's nice, colorful,
Well done
flashy,
production, blah, blah, blah.
flashy, and so on. But this was the only reason why I used my IPTV
STV,
box.
yeah.
So there was, I know that I haven't used it in a year. I know that I have it, and I'm still paying for the subscription.
I don't have that service at all enabled, and I don't have a STV.
And when I redecorated my house 14 years ago, I took down the antennas. So I don't even have a terrestrial antennas to be able to receive the normal program.
Okay, analog doesn't exist anymore, so you could do DVB-T, but still.
But I don't have the antennas.
Yeah,
so
me neither.
my TV is just connected to my Chromecast to be able to watch the YouTube and to the power. That's it. I don't have any more connections. And this is it has been like this for the last 6-7 years.
So you're saying that you're also at least half isolated from the news.
I would say that I'm more than half isolated from the news. I follow the news on the portals.
Yeah, I don't.
But I try to do it less often than I used to do it before because there is no more news. The only thing that right now, and this was the question that I was preparing to pose, is do you think that RSS feeds are going to be the only way to keep up with the news, but at the same time being stop you from being insane?
Okay, thank you for that question. I was not expecting this.
Yes.
I absolutely love using RSS. Always have, always will. Because that enables me to do a lot of stuff that I want to do, curate the news and filter out what I want to do. I haven't actually used them in at least 5 years, but this is a very good topic because I think RSS, if it already hasn't, because of the things happening on Twitter, on Reddit, and other, let's say, sites where you consume the news nowadays, because of all of the major things happening on those platforms, I think RSS is coming back with vengeance.
Yes, they're trying to get rid of RSS. And I think that the only reason that they're trying to do it is because RSS is cutting straight through the truth behind the news. I was doing the RSS feeds of the 3 most popular media in Croatia, most popular portals in Croatia. And if you take a look at the RSS feeds of 3 of them, side by side, you can see that the same news is happening at the same time.
Copy-paste.
Yes, copy-paste on all the media. So suddenly when you realize this, and you don't have the editorial things that are happening on the page because you don't see the page, you just see the topic, you understand that there is no news. There is just a half actual, half entertainment way of trying to get you to click on something.
Thank you for reminding me of something, which is what I'm going to do tonight when we finish recording our episodes. I'm going to open a box with an old laptop that I have at home. the old Dell XPS first generation M1330. On that, I have some old version of Windows in which I have some application that I don't remember what the name of it is, which I used to use for my web portal when I was still running it.
Okay.
But I used some kind of an aggregated application to get RSS from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sites related to IT. I have to remember or find the name of that application because you just reminded me of the fact that that's hugely useful. I'm going to deploy that on my laptop, and that's the way in which I'm going
And
to
before you
consume
do this, please go to your old feed and check and report back with the number of feeds that are still active.
Yes.
Because I want to see what has happened in the last 10 years or
There
how
were
many feeds.
thousands of them.
Yes. This is the one thing, and the other thing is that I want to see how many feeds are still alive. Not only because I want to see how much is changing in the technology, because some of them are going to just be dead because they changed the links, but I think that most of the sites stopped being alive or stopped working due to lack of advertisers and due to lack of interest from other people.
Actually, to your point, this is a little bit more of a history information. I remember when I was running that site, and we used to have quite a bit of people reading that in the hundreds of thousands per month, easily, at times millions as well. One of the fundamental things that we spent a lot of time developing on the CMS engine of the website for posting the posts was actually the engine to do the RSS, because it was one of the fundamental ways back then in which people consumed the articles that you were posting. So it was already there. So we are not actually kind of like realizing that this is something new and important. This was always important from my standpoint, although I mean, it was super important back then because that's the way in which a lot of people were consuming the news via RSS readers. But I think that's coming back. And I have a couple of different reasons why I think that. Yeah, especially, I have to check because I haven't used this application or any other aggregators for RSS in 10 plus years. If they have the capability to filter out the data based on some kind of criteria, keywords or whatnot, which I'm sure they do by now, that's going to be the perfect way for old picky guys like us to consume the news without all of the clutter.
Okay, but
or a good way, let's call it.
Okay, but call me different, but I like to see the news as they are.
Okay.
Without the rest of the content on the web page, because I want to understand the zeitgeist. I want to understand what is happening right now. I want to understand how the news is being presented, who is presenting it, and I want to see. I don't want to hide the ugly truth. I want to see what is happening. So whenever the Jack and Jill who got married are on the news, I want to see it, and I want to see the coverage because I want to understand how much coverage are two completely irrelevant people getting for no reason at all.
Okay, here is the main difference between the two of us, and this is the primary reason why we have these humorous discussions about, amongst other things, about the way in which you consume the news. I could not care less. And hence the reason why I don't use Twitter, and you do, why I don't use the /dot Reddit or whatnot, and you do, because it not only doesn't make any difference to my life if I read about that, I specifically do not want a single piece of information about anything like that. And I'm not saying that to condescend you. I'm just saying that our way of consuming the news and the stuff that we want to filter out is the opposite of one from the other. That's the first fact. And the second fact, it's not that mine is better or yours is worse or vice versa. It is what it is.
I'm just going to counter you.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that you were the one who reminded me that Jack and Jill got thrown out from Spotify because of the...
I saw the article title.
Because they are creators.
The title.
Yes, but this is what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in...
I don't want to see that. I literally do not want to know about it, but it was unmissable.
But I want to know that somebody paid aforementioned Jack and Jill $20 million to provide 12 hours of podcasts.
Which they failed to do.
No, they failed. They managed to do it. But they were supposed to do it...
Other people were doing
yes,
it
but
for them,
they were supposed to do it in 3 years. But this is too much information right now.
Yeah,
I want to
live in a world in which information about that not only doesn't get to me, I want to live in a world in which information like that is irrelevant to be posted. And I know it's an ideal world from my standpoint.
I want to
that
live
we're
in the world
discussing.
when this doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly that. And then it doesn't
because
produce the news and you don't see it.
Because if somebody actually paid normal, decent people who are interested in podcasting $20 million divided by probably thousands of people, we would get much more interesting and insightful content out of it. So paying those two makes no sense. I know they're celebrities, but from any point of view, it's just wasting money on trying to be popular.
That's what pop culture is.
Yes,
and
okay.
It has been for the past couple of decades. I completely disagree with it, just like you do. But it is what it is. I'm not judging it. I just don't want to not see it.
Okay.
That's my way of filtering things out because, again, to my earlier point, reading about this just pisses me off. Not for the money reason, but the fact that even got to production and became news, and then became the news when it was cancelled. For me, that means that we are long gone into the wrong direction. I want to read about some kind of, again, I am slicing the world according to my criteria. And I know it sounds arrogant, but I'm not doing it out of arrogance purposes. I'm speaking purely as a person intellectually interested in some things. I think that we would all be better off if we were reading, I don't know, if we had 12 hours of videos about robotics or electrical engineering or medicine or something that's some kind of actual applicable and humanly useful science. Instead of talking about 12 hours of podcasts,
but
from my standpoint, to completely irrelevant people.
Okay, but when we change the topics, when we came to this point, I think that the problem with the complete content creation going completely awry has started way before the internet.
Of course.
And
it started in the 80s and it was economy based. It wasn't.
But the internet is also economy based.
It is, but still, the source of that problem is in the economy of the 80s when some stuff switched to profit only.
Yes, I think that the first thing that went completely wrong was when authors, book authors primarily, started using ghostwriters to write books. And then it stopped making sense.
It's a practice that's well known and still being used today, actually publicly.
Yes, it's public. Okay, I don't have a problem when this happens. When, for example, you have an astronaut or whatever who is not a person who is able to write, and then he chooses an author to help him write whatever he needs to write. But when you have somebody like Tom Clancy or whatever, who produces 50, 60, 70 books using ghostwriters, just by created by and then written by somebody else. Can you imagine Mark Twain publishing Huckleberry Finn 7, created by Mark Twain, written by somebody else?
Random X.
Yes,
it's unacceptable.
Yes, this is the problem.
Agreed.
Because this content, and by this content I mean books, I mean new art, because books are art, has to be produced by person because we like to see the character. And once it became a content thing and something that can be produced, not written,
lost value very quickly.
Yes, we lost the point.
I would agree with that, and I would add 2 points to that. We, as we always post in our descriptions of the YouTube episodes, we issued a couple of books in the past couple of years. It was more than a few hundred hours of like blood, sweat, and tears in a sense, not necessarily literally, but still. And we were actually writing about the stuff that we've been doing for the past quarter of the century. So it was basically the knowledge dump from the brain to the paper, and both of us have thousands and thousands of hours of work in production of said, let's say, media being
using said applications.
We have a lot of experience in that. And yeah, I wrote most of the materials that I wrote for book number 1 very quickly. But the editing process, the review process, the point that you previously made, were very excruciating in terms of time. And
Yes.
we had to rewrite some stuff as well and to phrase them better. That's what makes quality content. And still, after all of that, there are still mistakes in the book. But they are the amount of them and the impact of them, instead of being this big, is this big, which is, for me, still, we are both perfectionists in that regard. Not good enough, but still within the realms of time that we had to finish those two books, they are a very reasonable and a good source of knowledge. So that's my first point. The second point, the economy of all of this. Actually, this is a problem that we're discussing right now that can be actually very easily solved. It just requires complete societal action. Just like the Reddit moderators went ballistic and closed down and put all of those subreddits on private, if people all around the world were to do the same thing to all of the biased, unprofessional, unimportant, whatever news for a couple of months and refuse to read that piece of you know what, I think that we would have a lot more options to choose from in terms of quality. Because the only way in which the topic that we are currently discussing is going to change is by force of the society. There is no other way. AI is not going to change that.
Yes, but I think that right now you're.
And I think that would be a positive change as well.
I completely agree. But I think that right now you're describing a spherical cow.
It is.
You are just
aware
trying-
of the fact that I'm being. I'm acting as a wizard in a Harry Potter episode. I'm just going to wave my magic wand. And everything is going to be-
you are being idealistic.
Yes,
and this is something that doesn't happen to you.
No, that's where you're wrong. Yes, thank you for hitting me in the head with that. No, actually, this is one of my hugest personal problems because I tend to look at some stuff in that
No,
way.
I think that being an idealist is okay. But
No. I'm not an idealist on paper. I try to do these things in real life as much as I can within the realms of the stuff that I do. I try to do things in the best way possible, which by human standards is the let's say some form of idealism. This goes along with the nature of some stuff that was kind of like I don't know, banged into my head by my parents via discussions with them. It's a postmodern thing, always thinking about you have to have some ideals, you have to have some dreams. And if we go back to some of the previous episodes while we're on the topic of that, it is important to be idealistic and have some dreams, especially the ones that are completely unachievable. There is no progress in society without that.
Okay.
Now I'm done with that.
No. Okay. We went off the rails, or you went off the rails.
I apologize for that.
No. I'm completely fine. I'm completely fine. But we are going to have to split this into shorts, or not so shorts.
But you were speaking most of the episode, actually. In the past couple of ones, I just felt my moment for a second. I was zen.
I'm fine. I'm fine with this. I'm fine. The next.
Sorry if I bored our listeners.
No. It is interesting to see that you have an idealistic side, and this idealistic side is trapped heavily behind your realism. And then when it
no, not realism, rationalism.
Okay, but when it comes to the surface, it is screaming. So this is okay.
Hence the reason why I do music.
Okay.
Because that's my creative outlet in which I can be as idealistic as I want to. And if nobody wants to listen to that, I'm completely fine with this.
Okay, so let's wrap this thing up and say, how do we think that we can consume the news? I think that something akin to RSS, because I don't think the RSS is enough. It doesn't have enough support for video, the images and everything else.
Okay.
It doesn't have enough support for comments.
Okay.
Because sometimes I want to be able to see the comments. And I don't want, under any circumstances, I don't want to be forced to click to the article itself. So I want the
out of the box.
Yes, I want my feed to be filled with the facts, the bullets, and
short content.
Short content, and I see that this is going to happen by using AI. Because this is one of those uses for the AI that makes
Agreed.
sense.
But I have a counterpoint to this.
Yes?
You are becoming a TikTok dude.
If I can get my news
in short slices,
Suddenly, both of you and me are going to realize that the news does not exist. A normal news cycle is something like 2 hours or 3 hours on normal portal, and you get something like 11 or 12 different articles per day that make any sense. And you can scan those if you have
I
them.
get zero, and I want to forget all about them. But yeah,
But if you are taking a look at normal news articles that are published on, I don't know, in Croatia, you get reasonably well written and reasonably founded articles that make any sense.
Okay.
Maybe we are talking about probably a dozen or 2 dozen per day, and you can scan those in 50
Minute,
seconds,
yeah.
in a minute, and then you are informed. You are
Yes.
actually informed, and then you can not care about the news anymore because you have done.
This is
your job.
what I do from time to time. Exactly my algorithm.
Yes, and this
So
is
the mixture of RSS and AI is an interesting idea. I'm with you. I think that's a good approach. AI is definitely going to have some kind of an influence. It's going to be a part of the engine that's going to either curate the news or filter the news or both. I don't know. But it seems like a reasonable thing to assume. That being said, I think that we still have a problem that's not going to be solved that way, which is the quality of the content.
But if
Or
I
do you
ask,
think that AI, or you want to apply AI to the quality as well?
I think that AI is first going to solve the quality of content, because
That's awesome.
if
Okay.
you ask AI to give you a digest of an article, and the AI says, okay, there is no digest, the article has no content, this is going to be it.
Okay, that's actually
And this
good,
is going
good
to-
value proposition.
Yes, this is going to start happening. And the other thing that I wanted to just before we finish, I want to just mention one more thing.
But-
You mentioned Twitter.
Yeah, exactly what I want to ask. Are we not talking about Twitter today?
Twitter is suspiciously absent for one reason. Twitter has stopped being relevant for the news.
How so?
What
Pardon my ignorance. I
what
don't care
Elmo
about
did
Twitter.
what Elmo did is that he was pushing for changes in the algorithm to make Twitter more interesting to people. So basically, he was trying to create TikTok out of Twitter. He's trying to push.
I think you are heavily oversimplifying.
Not really. He's trying to push articles that are different and that make sense to be clickbaity and to be clicky. So you want to read them, you want to see what's
Okay.
behind the article. And the only way to do this is to have a huge database of the articles, the tweets that are published during the day, and then find what your interests are, and then choose from the articles that have been published during the day. When something that is happening in real time happens, suddenly you have a problem because you are seeing the articles that were published yesterday, the day before, because they fit your preferences, but you cannot find the article that was published a minute before, and you want to see it because right now you're interested in something. This
No. You want to see it.
Okay, but if something is happening that is breaking news, there is almost no way for me to find the news feed that is going to be following the Twitter feed in real time without interrupting me with 12 hours, 40 hours a week old news that was clickable and that made sense for the algorithm to show me.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Why do you care? Why do you need current news? Why do you need up-to-date news? Why do you need currently important breaking news? Why do you care?
Sometimes I just want to see how far are how far did we go wrong, and this is one of those things. I just have a tendency to like watching breaking news.
I actually today I had a big laugh. I saw a picture of Galileo Galilei, and I don't know if this can be attributed to him or not. Probably it is. The longer I live, the more convinced I am that the other planets are using Earth as a Norhouse, so as a house for crazy people, But it's not that I think that it's absolutely true. That's not my point. It's a funny take on the reality, in a sense. My problem being that there are way too many people, and Reddit has proved that very nicely as well, who are so consumed by power that they're willing to go against their own personal principles and do stuff that's bad for the society for that little piece of power for them. The moderators prove that very eloquently.
Yes, but Andy Warhol said a long time ago that everybody wants his 15 minutes of fame. And I think that right now everybody wants his 15 seconds of fame on TikTok. And this is it. Everybody is pushing for the. They're not willing to negotiate. They, instead of expecting 15 minutes, they are ready to be happy with 15 seconds. And this is one of those things.
Okay, so what you want to tell me is we're going to TikTok.
We can do TikTok, but I don't think that we are capable of doing the such a short version unless we are trying to be sarcastic. And I think
We can do quips, I think, very quickly.
yes, but I don't think that we are that funny. We are too old.
Yeah, I agree
We are
with
too old.
that.
I think that we are 30 years older than the people who we are referencing on TikTok.
Agreed.
And I think that you should know your boundaries. I
Yeah,
think one of the
we're-
boundaries is just that you are not
Our
interesting.
software is too old for that. This software.
Yes, I know what the software meant. The hardware is still running, but the software is lagging
Yeah, it
behind.
reduced speed. Control Alt S. You know?
Okay, but anyways, even in the firmware update, I don't see that we are able to keep up with the society. And
No, we should try.
and yes, I'm completely with you. I don't think we should be able to. We should be even trying to come up with things that are interesting for younger people. Not because I don't like younger people.
No. By younger people per se in every episode.
No, the thing is that
Unless
what
we're talking about TikTok, in which case I agree absolutely with you.
what I learned is that trying to fit your content to your audience is the fastest way to oblivion.
Yet it is the fastest way to kind of like grow in statistics as well, which is the corruption process again.
Yes, so trying to create content that is going to fit your audience is the wrong way around.
The content that your audience wants to hear.
Yes.
I agree with you.
So this is the oblivion.
Okay, I get it, because this is the trap that most people fall in. I hope we are not going to, but we're going to see that.
Okay, so on that
Less than
quite interesting insight on not trying to be boring, but being boring because we are too old.
Yes.
We'll see you in the next episode whenever that comes out.
Yes.
And thank you for being with us. I was Yasmin.
I was Vedran.
And see you next time.
Bye.